For the introduction. Halloween is a big night in our house, I have to say. Thank you for the chance to speak here and to talk to you guys about the program that we have worked really hard to build in Cincinnati. I'm going to try to take you through our early stages and walk through some of the obstacles that we faced that are the same as what a lot of people face in trying to build a program, and show you some of the ways we got over it, around it, through it, or whatnot to kind of get to where we are today in 15 minutes or less. So we have nothing to disclose. So we started in 2009, so it has been 10 years that we've been at this now, and really started with two physicians. So it was myself and where's Leslie Apia back there, met at a restaurant downtown and talked about this vision to bring Oncofertility and fertility preservation to our patients at Cincinnati Children's. We didn't have a roadmap for how to do it at the time. What we had was a whole lot of passion and trying to move this forward. So we recruited some of our nurse practitioners and nurses, predominantly in oncology at that point, to do the fertility consults with us. And so at this point, everybody took their turn. They did a week of doing consults. Everybody essentially cross-covered, right? We came from all different backgrounds. So when you were doing the consult, there'd be a part that you were very comfortable speaking about. So I could talk about risk for, in oncology treatment plans forever, but it's a little bit harder. I had to learn about fertility preservation techniques and so on. We had some limited opportunities at that point. So really at that point, sperm cryopreservation and embryo cryopreservation were considered standard of care. So we were able to offer that, but we didn't have established relationships with our REI colleagues. So timing was really, really difficult. And we could say that we could do it, but we had a hard time actually coming through on that in the time frame that we needed for our oncology patients. We had a lot of confusion amongst our patients and amongst our oncology team about who should be referred and who we were trying to see. Do we want to see everybody? Do we just want to see high risk? Do we only see them if they have a fertility preservation option? And this really resulted in a lot of problems. So we had problems with missed opportunities where we weren't hearing about the patient until they'd already started therapy and we didn't have anything we could offer anymore. We had patients talking and families talking on the floor, wondering why one patient got a consult and another patient didn't. And that led to all sorts of speculation about what was happening. We had problems with patients identifying the fertility consult. If I'm their oncologist and I'm talking to them about therapy, but I'm also doing the fertility preservation consult, well, then they're not necessarily differentiating that and they're not remembering that conversation. We had difficulty with buy-in from oncology because of all of these ongoing issues. And we tried to expand what we were doing and what we were able to offer. We opened our ovarian tissue cryopreservation protocol in 2012. We had similar issues. We didn't have those established pathways with the surgeons to put the line in, with scheduling in the OR to get that time in a quick fashion. So we continued to have problems. And when we tried to sort through and see what was going on, we didn't have data monitoring and we didn't have the quality improvement science there, so we had a really difficult time. So we regrouped in 2013, and our comprehensive fertility care and preservation program was born. For those of you working to establish programs now, I might recommend a shorter title because that gets to be a mouthful when you have to say it over and over again. This is when we really became multidisciplinary though. So everyone listed up there now was not on the original team. We have certainly grown over the years as our needs have grown. But we did start with multiple specialties, and within that, we developed our leadership team on our fertility preservation team. So you'll see that we have 3 co-directors. So we have someone from oncology, we have urology, and we have REI at this point. We also have social work and psychology. I put them up there, and they're shaded in gray because I have a lot of people ask me if they're members of our team. And they're not official members of our fertility team, but they are absolutely members of our oncology team. And we have both social workers and psychologists embedded in our multiple oncology teams, and we definitely make use of them with our fertility preservation work. So at this point, we reassigned our roles, and we really adopted this team approach to consults. So now everyone could bring what they do best to the table and doing what is best for the patient. And so nobody was doing everything anymore. We were all coming together to do the best possible consults. We also worked to expand our fertility preservation options so we could reach more of our population. So we formalized some of those relationships. So we formalized our relationship with the University of Cincinnati and their REI program. We formalized our process and our relationship with our surgery colleagues and with our surgery schedulers, who really are quite helpful to have on your side when you're trying to get that fast OR time. And when we opened our testicular tissue cryopreservation protocol, we adopted a lot of this, the same processes to keep that going as well. We also created our operational definition so we could be very discreet and very clear about what it is that we were trying to do. So this is the definition that we use. Our goal is to complete a fertility consultation on greater than 90% of all the patients seen in the Cancer and Blood Diseases Institute, regardless of their risk of gonatotoxicity from their planned therapy. And while we try to be very inclusive, we also want to be very appropriate in pediatric oncology. So you can see our list of what we would consider accepted exclusions there. And for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through them, but I'm happy to talk to anybody later on this afternoon if you have questions about that. So we thought we were doing pretty well at this point. We had our act together. We had our processes in place. We were ready to go. But we still had problems. And we realized that we really had to work hard with oncology to build that relationship and to open those channels of communication and build that trust. So we're all on the same team. We all want what's best for the patient. We work a lot with our oncologists to work on the timing and the treatment plan. And so one of the things we put in place that really helped a lot was having the oncologist on the fertility team. And we set up our flow chart, which you'll see in a few more slides, that really, it goes to our navigator first, but then it goes straight to our oncologist so they can work directly with the primary oncology team to discuss those goals of care. How fast does treatment have to start? We don't want to go in and talk to somebody about freezing eggs if the oncology team has already told them that that is urgent and critical that they start their therapy tomorrow. We want to present a united front, both to the team and to the patient. So we talk to them before the patient interaction, and we also talk to them after the patient interaction as well, so we can keep those channels of communication open. They wanted to know who we wanted to see and what we want to do and what we can do. And this had changed over the years, to be fair to my oncology colleagues. We had broadened what we could do and who we wanted to see. So we really used the ASCO guidelines to justify seeing every patient, even if they're considered low risk of gonatotoxicity. We got our oncology leadership on board. They're very big in building a program, so this was a vital part to building a comprehensive oncology program. And we used the US News and World Report rankings to help get our hospital leadership on board as well. There are a few questions embedded in there in various parts of the survey, and that matters to our hospital leadership. So we used those to justify our cause. And we shared our why. So we shared our operational definition, but we also did multiple education sessions, and we continue to do them today. So we kind of have a saying that we'll talk to anybody, anytime, anywhere about anything that we do. We talk to physicians, we've talked to our nurses, we've talked to our support staff, really anybody who's willing to listen to us talk about our cause. We provide them the opportunity, and we'll talk to them about what we do and why we think it's important. And it really helps. And our bedside nurses in particular really appreciate this because they're the ones getting the questions at 9 and 10 o'clock at night when none of us are around. So finally, we had them on board, and they said, this is all great, but I have so much on my plate. How the heck am I supposed to remember to do this? And so we said, let's make this as easy as we possibly can. You just remember that fertility is important, and you call us, and we'll take it from there. In order to help them remember, we showed up at every meeting. I think Olivia has been to every single oncology meeting that we have ever dreamed up. It's really hard to forget that somebody exists when they're sitting across the table from you. So just being visible and being present goes a long way in helping people to remember that they want to have someone talk to their patients about fertility preservation. We also got our care managers involved. So for us, our care managers in oncology are a lot like our navigator for fertility. They keep the checklist. So when a new patient comes in, they're the ones going down the list of everything that needs to be done. Was the PET scan done? Was the scan done? Did I do this? Did I do that? We put fertility on there. So they can't enter the order, but they can stand next to the resident or the fellow or the attending until they put the order in. And our orders, by the way, are defaulted to yes. And if you say, no, I don't want a fertility consult, we make you tell us why instead of just saying no. So you have to justify your unclicking that box. We also give them multiple ways to contact. So anytime anybody said, oh, it would just be easy if you had a dedicated email or a pager or a phone, we said done. It all goes to Olivia. I'm sure she loves that. But for us, it doesn't change our process at all, how we get this consult. The important thing is that we're getting the information and then we're able to do something with it. And we're taking it off the oncologist's plate. All they have to do is somehow trigger this system in any of these ways, and we get it and we take it from there. And our philosophy all along has kind of been start small, aim high, and just keep going. So we started this process with our leukemia team. We worked out the kinks there. We moved it to our solid tumor team. Oops, sorry. Adjusted it just a little bit to work there, and so on and so forth until we rolled it out to our whole oncology group, including our bone marrow transplant group. We also took a huge interest in quality improvement science. So we are very fortunate at Cincinnati that we have this Anderson Center, which is the Center for Quality Improvement. So use your resources. We looked around, we looked to see what we have, and we found our Anderson Center. we had somebody embedded on our team for the first few years doing quality improvement. And what that did was that taught us the importance of tracking your data and using your data to not only justify your existence, but also help you get better. You can't know what you're doing wrong if you don't even know what you're doing. We worked with Epic to template notes so we can track all of our consults. We created our own database, which was initially an Excel spreadsheet, but when you hit over 2,000 patients, that gets to be a little bit difficult to maintain. So about a year and a half or so ago, we changed it over to an IRB-approved REDCap database, which has been wonderful. We have some people working on our team. Bryson's over there, much smarter than me when it comes to REDCap. They can do amazing things with our database. And we continued to do our monthly reviews. So we would report out not only to our team at our team meetings, but we made ourselves accountable to other areas within the hospital, particularly our AYA group at that time, which had our oncology leadership usually present at those meetings. And so we had to answer to them. We had to answer to them when things were going well, which was easy, but we also had to answer for our failures too. And we literally went back and looked at every single failure to see what happened and how can we do better. Where was the loophole? What fell through? Did somebody just forget, or do we need to tweak our system? And it's because of these processes that we saw in 2017 that we had a dip in our consults. And we realized that that's when our proton center opened. It's at a different site. So patients were coming in a way that we weren't used to in our system. So we did a dedicated project to try to improve that process, and we were able to improve it again. And now we're moving on to off therapy and our survivorship project. So the goal of all of this is to provide the consult for the family and to try to engage the family in the consult so they can make the best decision possible in that short, stressful time period. So this is our workflow. You can see it goes back to our navigator at multiple points along the communication trail. So a new patient comes in, the primary team gets a hold of us, Olivia takes down the information, she talks to either myself or Christine Phillips, our two oncologists, so we can work with the primary team to see what the therapy plan is going to be. We can, from that, estimate the gonatotoxicity risk and the timeline that we have to work with, give it back to Olivia. She'll then take it to either gynecology or urology, depending on the male or female. And then they can do the consult. The consult gets documented in Epic on our fertility consult note. And then from there, we can follow up with any fertility preservation measures. We work to incorporate some technology and to try to catch our millennials and other generations with our consults. We are associated with the University of Cincinnati, who has a graduate program that's pretty good for design. So we were part of an ongoing relationship with oncology with the Live Well Collaborative, and they helped us make some videos that we've shown here at conferences before, and they've been really helpful. So we have a library of them at this point. The first one is probably the one that we use the most, and that will really introduce the concept of oncofertility to our patients. So the consult gets put in, the navigator, somebody will load the video, the family could watch it before they ever meet us, and that can help them start to think of their questions. It also lets them watch it over and over again. If grandma's not present at the time of the consultation or somebody forgot what was in there, they can go through the videos again. They're available on the website. They're also available specifically for our patients. So we have them on our Get Well network in the hospital system and also on their MyChart. It'll load, once they're an official patient in the Cancer and Blood Diseases Institute, it'll load on their MyChart page. We've also worked with the design program and the graphic designers at UC to develop our shared decision-making tool, which we've also shared here in the past. But this gives them another way to help to remember what is said during the consultation. So they have something to physically hold in their hand, something to look at, something to reference later. These cards allow them to compare and contrast the various methods of fertility preservation as they're trying to make their decision. Inside our folders, I didn't put the picture up here, but that's where our risk meter is too, so they can visually see that. So hopefully they save these things in 1 month, 2 months, 3 years, whatever later down the line. We're meeting them again in survivorship, but all along they have something that they can look at. So while we were building this, we also had to build the business plan to go along and to support that as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie, who can talk about that.
Thank you so much for having us speak today. So I get the fun part of talking about how we financed this and how we made our plan. And so what did it take to get here? Karen's already kind of gone through a lot of this, but it took passion, multidisciplinary collaboration, divisional, departmental, and institutional buy-in. We had to get some hospital seed money funding, institutional partnerships like the Live Well and the Anderson Center, getting some national, international, institutional visibility so people knew what we were doing and why it was important. And we made doing the right thing for our patients and families easy. So I think this is probably one of the busiest slides, but I think it kind of shows a timeline of how we did our clinical pieces, as well as how we financially supported it. So the financial support is in pink. So when we regrouped in 2013, we had oncology and gynecology Faculty were doing risk assessments and clinical consults in their own time, and the division supported that. So maybe they weren't expecting so much research or publications because they were doing this in their academic spare time. We also had a fertility navigator start, but she was a GYN nurse and did not have any protected time for fertility navigation and did this in her spare time. So as you grow, if you're tracking your quality improvement, you're tracking your clinical numbers, you can show importance. So in 2014, we were able to get some protected time for our fertility navigator, and that came from our divisional support. In 2015, we continued to show that as Olivia was able to attend weekly team meetings and we got a fertility email system, that then we were reaching our benchmark of greater than 90% of our patients being seen. And so we went to the powers that be and say, we need her to do this full time. Can you give us another GYN nurse? And we did that. We also continued to see, we had the bone marrow transplant team emailed to our fertility navigator. The decision aids were created and tested. And at this point, we were able to use some divisional funds to fund a divisional clinical research coordinator. And then this is where we have all of this data with the Anderson Center, and we were able to go down here to our sustained model. And so we weren't growing too much in team-wise, but we needed to have some money to support all of these pieces outside the divisions. And so that's where we applied for a grant, and we're funded that from our institution. And so that grant allowed us to add more members to our team. We added another 0.5 clinical research coordinator, a program coordinator that helps with program expansion, administrative support. We added our urology team in again in 2017. And then in 2018, still on this funding from the institutional startup grant, we were able to improve with quality improvement projects. We showed outpatient billing increased for our survivorship and off-therapy patients. We were able to have more outside referrals just for OTC and TTC. Our REDCap database was implemented, and I'll show you in a minute how important that is and how quickly you can get information on that. And again, our grant continued to support us up until this year, 2019. And so that's where we take all of these pieces now to our institution, and we say, this is our program, and we need institutional support to continue to fund this, as well as our clinical dollars. So kind of in summary, we show our growth. So in 2013, when we started, we had 80% of our patients that were eligible consulted, and in 2018, we're at 98.8%. So we're meeting our program goal. We're also able to show that our surgical volume has increased, which has downstream revenue for our facility. And so our investments was the fertility navigator, our data support management that we team with the Anderson Center, our program coordinator, and our clinical research coordinators. And our funding sources, we had our startup grant. We also have donors, so use your development funds or your endowment funds that are available at your institution, partnering with other practices, and also divisional billing and collections. Those are important. So building your business case. So first of all, you have to tell a compelling story. You have to know your audience. So as Karen talked about, U.S. News and World Report's really important to those leadership members. Know that this is something that's looked at in those reports. Know your key stakeholders and understand their motivations and anticipate their barriers, and maybe come to the meeting with workarounds for those barriers. Like, think about them before you get there, and have a patient story, have a prototype, tell something that tugs at the heart, and identify and highlight your early wins. So unlike most typical business plans, fertility programs are driven by purpose before profit. But eventually, you will need to develop a sustainable business plan. And that's where data management and quality improvement is really important at our institution. And so why should you track your data? It improves patient care. We know that. It supports research endeavors, which is also important for the institution. It helps celebrate your team. People can see, oh, we're really doing a good job. We're willing to work a little extra. And then the money. It does help get the funding. And so this is just information that comes easily to us out of our database. And so we can ask Bryson, hey, we're having a presentation in Chicago next week. Can you give us our most up-to-date numbers? And so we can show that there's a large number of patients electing fertility, and almost 45% of our high-risk patients are electing for fertility preservation. We also can show our growth of our number of consults. As we can see from 2013 up to 2019, our number of eligible patients have grown, but are also meeting that benchmark, and our number of consults has also grown. We can also track our procedures and how many of them are coming from within the institution and from outside of the institution. And we can show that that's growing, and we're also getting downstream revenue from those pieces as well. And then this is our other piece, is that we shake this each time we have to meet with our division or departmental financial people, and we can say, hey, these are our outpatient visits. And in 2018, when I joined the program, we opened up, so we'd have more fertility consult options. And so you can see that there's been a lot more increases in our types of fertility clinics and just the volume in general that we're billing, which helps with the revenue. Also, academic productivity is so important. And so we have a program CV. Every abstract, every talk, every paper is in here. And that's also important when you're talking to your institutional administrators and financial support, because if that is a key part of academics. And so items to consider when developing your business plan. You want to get comfortable with a different kind of plan. Again, most of the financial value is indirect, but you also have to set realistic expectations and define the success here is crucial. You want to use your wins to show your proof of concept, and then shamelessly promote your program. Build a budget for incremental investments that parallel growth metrics. So again, when Olivia started in 2013, we were able to show that our number of consults grew, and that was how we paralleled that with the billing. And then sustainability, capturing all downstream revenue. So when patients come in and say, we came to Children's because we know you have this fertility program, we shamelessly tell more and more about that to our oncology department. And then making sure that you're connecting your revenue and your benefit with the cost. And so you always have to have future directions. That's what was talked about before. So we're expanding our outreach to different populations. We're increasing our outside referrals, making it easier for outside centers to send to us for these procedures, fundraising through development funds, wanting to add basic science research, and then our off therapy and survivorship projects. And we just want to shout out, our team has grown and has so many faces, but we couldn't be here today without everyone that's contributed to our team.